And welcome back to Washington Commanders Insider. Today we are doing an injury update around Jayden Daniels. We're also going to be looking at some of the key takeaways from yesterday's game against the Dallas Cowboys. And lastly, we'll be doing a little overview as the Washington Commanders have found out who their opponent is going to be in the playoffs. It is going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But let's go ahead and start with the injury update around Jayden Daniels. And so we know that Jayden Daniels did not finish the game yesterday. And if you did get a chance to watch that, there was not an official injury update for Jayden Daniels. And so what it came down to, what I'm reading here is that it was some leg soreness, and that prompted the Commanders to go ahead and take him out of the football game yesterday. He did reassure everybody that it was just some leg soreness and that he will be ready to go this upcoming week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Dan Quinn said that, yes, it was some leg soreness. This was not expected to go ahead and, be looking to pull Jayden Daniels like that, but they wanted to err on the side of the precaution. And so, if fans didn't get a chance to see this, he did not finish that game, and it was due to some leg soreness, but it was not listed as an official injury. And so that is the injury update around Jayden Daniels. And so I think that we are going to be good moving forward. And so with that being said, now let's shift focus and let's look back at this game against the Dallas Cowboys and just really some of the key takeaways from this game, because I think once again, I'd said this going into this game that the Washington Commanders really needed to get off to a good start. And they didn't get off to a good start. In fact, they got a shutout of the first quarter, 3-0 there. They finally answered in the second quarter to get a field goal on the board. But once again, it was a slow start for the Washington Commanders, but they really heated up towards the end of the game. And then also, too, defensively, they were able to make some stops throughout this game. But I think that was key takeaway number one, is that just the Washington Commanders have got to get off to a better start. And I said this in the last video that, I really think that this team is going to really start to roll teams even more once it starts to put a full 60 minutes together. And I mean, coming out from the gates and then finishing the way that they are doing. Now, make no mistake about it, I do love the way that the Washington Commanders finish. And I said this too, that it's not how you start, it is how you finish. And so that is great. But I just want to see this team get off to a better start. And so we know that Jayden Daniels, the offense was struggling, just really couldn't get on rhythm. And so hopefully that is something that they take care of as they get ready to take on, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I really think that you have to get off to a good start in playoff football. I think that is super important. So next up, I think another key takeaway here is just that the running game, right? And I think that we really need to get back on track with that. And so I know that we had some offensive linemen that were out yesterday. I do expect that we are going to get them back for this upcoming week. But, 113 yards, we got outrushed by the Dallas Cowboys. They had 150. And so with that, the time of possession for the Washington Commanders, they were only at 22:57 yesterday. The Cowboys at 37:03. And I've said this, that when you get into playoff football, I really do believe that the running game is even more important, because when you're keeping defenses on the field, you're keeping elite quarterbacks off of the field, and you're really controlling the way that the game is played. And I think that when you're able to really dictate what is going on at the line of scrimmage with that physicality, you're really playing the game on your terms. And I think that is when the Washington Commanders are at best, when they're just literally, just going at people and kind of pushing them out the way and imposing their will, really eating up the clock. The third down marker is a lot closer for us, and so it's easier to convert. So I think that the Commanders have just got to make sure that they get into that identity. And so I know that B-Rob has struggled over the last couple weeks. Hopefully this week he comes in, he's locked in, he's ready to go, along with our offensive lineman. I think that it's going to be huge that we get Austin Eckler back. I think that he's really going to start to press the edges a little bit more with the outside runs, and he's going to be excellent for a change in pace. And so what I do like about the Commanders moving forward is we know that Jayden Daniels can get it done. B-Rob has definitely shown that he can get it done. And Brian Robinson Jr. is who I'm referring to here. We know he can get it done. We know that Jeremy McNichols, Chris Rodriguez Jr., he can get it done. And so we have a staple of running backs that can get it done. It's just a matter of going out there and doing it. And this is something that the Washington Commanders will need to do. And so that is another key takeaway. Next, the sacks. And so I think that we've had an abundance of sacks there against the Saints. We had some sacks here against this Cowboys team as well, 6 sacks. And so that is something that certainly we want to clean up a little bit more of. I've talked about just how efficient this team can be as far as converting on third downs and things like that. And a part of that has to do with just not getting into negative plays. And so it starts with obviously not giving up the sacks. And next, the penalties, right? Like, so the penalties are something that the Washington Commanders are absolutely going to have to correct. Thankfully, in this last game, look, we had 5 for 55. So it looks like the Cowboys had 11 for 68. So we did not lead in the penalty yards, which is good for this one. Something that the Washington Commanders are certainly going to have to correct. You don't want to beat yourself. And so lastly, stopping the run. I think that is really the last key takeaway here. And so look, the Cowboys outrushes 150 to 113. But I think that really what I take away from this is just that the Washington Commanders are going to have to clean this up going into playoff football, because I know that teams are going to try to press the Washington Commanders at that. Right now, I believe the Washington Commanders are like bottom 5 in the league as far as stopping the run, giving up, nearly 4.8 yards a carry. And in this game, what was unique is that you have a quarterback in Trey Lance, who's a mobile quarterback that was able to go out there and get some things done as far as running the football. And so, with Baker Mayfield in this next game, he also is going to be a player that is going to press the Washington Commanders defense as far as being mobile. And then with Bucky Irvin and some of these players that they have over there, Rashad White, they're absolutely going to test the Washington Commanders front. And so this is something that the Washington Commanders are certainly going to need to tighten up. And I think that is another key takeaway going into this upcoming game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And so that leads us to the last portion of the show. And that is just really talking about this upcoming game with the Washington Commanders taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I think that it's interesting because we have some things that, it's almost like repeating history, because in 2020, the last time the Washington Commanders were in the playoffs, they took on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in that game. It was a wild card game. The Washington Commanders actually won the division. Tampa Bay had Tom Brady at the time. They won 31-23. They go on to win the Super Bowl. And so that's the last time that we were in the playoffs and we played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And also, too, with head coach Todd Bowles, he actually played for the Washington franchise here. He was in Super Bowl 22. He was the starting free safety for us in 1987. And that was the year in which the Washington won that Super Bowl against the Denver Broncos, put up 356 yards, 35 points, called the quarter that day. So 42-10 beat the Broncos. And so just a little history here, and just to give you a little bit of context into this game and kind of just how these teams are kind of connected going into this one. And so I think that is interesting. But when we look at just the teams and just what they've been doing as of late, I think initially when I look at the overview from this game, it's going to be which defense is really going to win out there, because you have a defense with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that is coming in that has really struggled with injuries. It's struggled with consistency. And I think for the most part, it's given up some big plays in the passing game. In fact, they've given up 249.3 passing yards, which is the 4th most in the league. Now, when you look at them as far as giving up points are concerned, they're only giving up 17 points since the week 11 bye, which is the 2nd best in the league. But the issue about that is that you have only one of those opponents that they faced had a winning record. And so defensively, they give up a lot of yards. It's a very leaky defense in the secondary. And for the Washington Commanders, it gets interesting with our defense. I just talked about the just the struggle that this defense has had stopping the run. And the Washington Commanders are coming into this. They have the lowest ranked run defense of any of the playoff teams coming into this game, giving up 4.8 yards a carry. All right. And so that is going to be interesting for the Washington Commanders. I just talked about the fact that they have Rashad White, they have Bucky Irvin, who's having a very good rookie season. And so this is going to be, I think, a top 5 running game coming in against a defense that struggled against the run. And then with their secondary, we know that our Jayden Daniels, that offense is going to be able to definitely get some things done against them. Because, look, I talked about this week after week with Zach Ertz. You'll have Zacchaeus. You also have Austin Eckler. Couldn't think there for a second. And I think that these players are going to certainly press that secondary of the Bucs. And then with Terry McLaurin finds ways to get it done. And so he certainly is going to put some pressure on that defense. And so I think that we have the advantage there. They have a little bit of advantage against our run defense. And so it's which defense is going to win. And what I will say, I did just talk about the fact that they've done a great job as far as keeping the scoring down, have the Buccaneers defense, but we've also done some good things as far as, run defense as well, even though we've given up the yardage over the last couple weeks, taking on Saquon Barkley and Bijan Robinson, combined for both of those players, only 20 carries for 35 yards in the second half in week 16 and week 17, which is very good. So that means that these Washington Commanders have been able to come out in the second half, really lock in after getting gashed in the first half. And so I'm hoping that we can continue with that type of run defense. We're going to see. But initially, I think that is going to be the key to this game, is just going to be which defense is going to be able to really not be exploited for their weakness initially. And so we'll be talking a little bit more about the Washington Commanders and this matchup coming up. I wanted to just go back and just do one last look at the Dallas Cowboys game and just give an injury update around Jayden Daniels. And so make sure that you press that like and subscribe button here. We'll be talking more Washington Commanders football. And so, as I always say, go Commanders, and I will see you on the next one. All right, peace.